The distress beacon pulsed through subspace like a dying heartbeat, carrying with it the desperate plea of the Valteri Confederation. Their colony on Terminus 7 had been overrun by hostile raiders, their defensive lines collapsing under relentless assault. The message was clear. They needed peacekeepers, diplomats, perhaps a small contingent of security forces from one of the civilized core worlds. What they got instead were humans. Governor. Feln watched through the observation port as the human vessel descended through Terminus 7's atmosphere. The ship was ugly by galactic standards, all sharp angles and reinforced plating, built for function rather than form. It touched down on the landing pad with enough force to crack the ferrocrete beneath it. And Feln's secondary heart skipped a beat. The cargo ramp lowered with a hydraulic hiss. And the first human emerged. Captain James Holt stood 2 meters tall, his frame encased in armor that looked more like a mobile weapons platform than protective gear. Behind him came 30 more, each one moving with a predatory grace that made Feln's fur stand on end. They carried weapons that seemed disproportionately large, designed for wars Feln could only imagine in nightmares. "Governor Feln," Holt said, his voice rough through the translator. "We received your distress call. Where are the hostiles?" Feln's mandibles clipped nervously. "Captain, with respect, we requested peacekeepers, mediators. Your species is listed as Category 9 Deathworlders. We were expecting the Altheri Diplomatic Corps, or perhaps a Nexian security detail." Holt's face split into something that might have been a smile. "The Altheri are 3 weeks away. The Nexians don't operate this far out. You've got us or nobody. Now, where are the raiders?" The governor's assistant, a young Valteri named Kess, pulled up a holographic display. Red markers indicated raider positions throughout the colony's western sector. They had entrenched themselves in the residential blocks, using civilians as shields. Standard protocol dictated months of careful negotiation, slowly wearing down their resolve while minimizing casualties. "They number approximately 200, Kess explained, her voice trembling. "They have fortified positions in buildings Delta through Sigma. We estimate they hold nearly 1,000 of our people hostage. Our security forces attempted an assault yesterday and lost 40% of their strength in the first hour." Holt studied the display for 30 seconds. "We'll have it cleared by morning." "Morning?" Feln's translator struggled with the incredulous tone. "Captain, these are hardened criminals. They have military-grade weapons. The buildings are civilian structures with families inside. You cannot simply storm in with your Deathworld brutality and expect anything but a massacre." The human captain turned to face him fully, and Feln understood for the first time why Earth had been classified as a Category 9 world. Holt's eyes held a coldness that spoke of evolution on a planet where mercy was a luxury and hesitation meant death. "Governor, my people have been fighting wars since before your species discovered fire. We know the difference between an enemy and a civilian. We know how to dig determined fighters out of urban terrain. And we know how to do it fast." He turned to his soldiers. "Richards, Davies, take your squads and scout the perimeter. Lee, Martinez, set up overwatch positions on the northern ridge. Jackson, you're with me. We go in at nightfall." The Valteri had no word for nightfall. Their homeworld orbited a binary star system, bathed in constant twilight. Terminus 7 was their first colony on a planet with a true night cycle, and they had never quite adapted to the deep darkness that fell when the sun disappeared. But humans had. Humans were born for the dark. When night came, Feln watched from the command center as thermal signatures moved through the colony. The human soldiers seemed to melt into the shadows, invisible to the raider sensors. They moved through the streets like ghosts, communicating in hand signals and brief radio, bursts that the enemy couldn't intercept. The first building fell in 7 minutes. The raiders inside never knew what hit them. One moment they were laughing over stolen supplies, the next they were unconscious on the floor, subdued by non-lethal rounds and neural disruptors. The hostages were escorted out, shaken but unharmed. The second building took 9 minutes. The third took 6. By the time the raiders realized they were under assault, half their positions had fallen. Those who tried to fight back found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move, that struck from impossible angles with impossible precision. One group of raiders tried to use hostages as leverage. They dragged a Valtteri family into the street, weapons pressed against their heads, shouting demands into the darkness. Holt's voice echoed through a loudspeaker. "You have 10 seconds to release them." The raiders laughed. "Or what, human? You shoot and they die. You charge and they die. You have no move. 5 seconds." The raider leader pressed his weapon harder against his captive's head. "I said you have no." The shot came from 800 meters away, a single round fired by Private First Class Emma Stone from her overwatch position. It passed through the narrow gap between 2 buildings, threaded the space between 4 different obstacles, and struck the raider's weapon dead center, destroying it in a shower of sparks. Before anyone could react, 3 more shots disabled the other raiders' weapons with surgical precision. The humans emerged from the darkness, securing the hostages before the raiders could even process what had happened. By dawn, every building had been cleared. 197 raiders sat in restraints in the colony's detention center. 3 had been injured during extraction, none seriously. Not a single hostage had been harmed. The human team had suffered 0 casualties. Theln found Holt in the command center, filing his after-action report. The captain looked tired, but not exhausted. This had been routine for him. "I do not understand," Theln said quietly. "Your species is classified as savage, violent. Your homeworld produces soldiers that other races fear to face in open combat. Yet you showed more restraint and precision than our own security forces. You saved lives we had written off as lost." "How?" Holt looked up from his datapad. "Governor, you know why Earth is a death world? The gravity, the predators, the weather extremes, the geological instability, the diseases. All true. But you know what the real reason is? It's because everything on our planet is trying to kill everything else all the time. Every species is locked in an evolutionary arms race. You know how we survived that?" Thelm shook his head. "We learned to cooperate. We formed tribes, then villages, then nations. We learned that the best way to survive was to protect each other. The strong defended the weak. The skilled taught the unskilled. We built societies based on the idea that every life mattered." Holt stood, stretching his shoulders. "Yeah, we're violent. Yeah, we can fight. But we're also the only species that will run into a burning building to save someone we've never met. We're the only ones who will take a bullet for a stranger. That's what makes us dangerous, Governor. Not our weapons. Our willingness to use them in defense of those who cannot defend themselves." A commotion at the door interrupted them. Kess rushed in, her face flushed with excitement. "Governor, we are receiving transmissions from 17 other colonies. They heard what happened here. They are requesting human assistance for their own security issues." Theln looked at Holt, who shrugged. "I'll need to contact Fleet Command. See if they can spare more teams. Captain, I must ask. Your species volunteered for this mission, knowing you would be far from home, facing unknown dangers, for people you had never met. Why?" Holt smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. "Because you asked for help, Governor. And where I come from, when someone asks for help, you show up. Every time. No exceptions." The human team departed 3 days later, leaving behind a colony that would never forget the night the Deathworlders came. Word spread through the Valtteri Confederation, then beyond, into the wider galactic community. The savage humans of Earth, the species everyone feared, had proven themselves to be something else entirely. They were not conquerors. They were not raiders. They were protectors. And across 1,000 worlds, distress beacons began to carry a new request, one that would have seemed unthinkable just weeks before. They were asking specifically for humans.